You're very welcome to the Future of Food, hosted by Guaranteed Irish. And the reason it's being hosted by Guaranteed Irish is for the third year, we are celebrating food across June. And June is our food month. And for that, we like to celebrate all our members who in the food and drinks industry across the 26 counties who are part of the Guaranteed Irish family. And for those of you who are tuned in today, you're very welcome, and we're delighted to have you on board. For those of you who are members, you know us well, and for those of you who are not members yet, we'd love to get you on board and work with you to promote the symbol across the shopping habits and help consumers identify genuinely Irish products and food and drink that are made here in the island, and creating those great jobs, supporting those communities, and really showcasing the quality and the provenance of our food ingredients and drinks ingredients. So delighted to have you on board. Please feel free to contact us at any stage. I will give a little bit of housekeeping at the moment. We are recording, and this webinar will be made available to anybody afterwards if they want. Please feel free to be part of the questions and answers. And while we have great speakers, we love to get engagement from our listeners as well. So please go to the questions and answers section on your link and feel free to put questions to the panel, and we'll talk to them and put them to them on your behalf at the end of the session. But right now, I have great pleasure in introducing you to the panel, and we have an amazing lineup this morning. Delighted to be joined by Tara Mccarthy, CEO of Bord Bia, and with over 20 years experience in the wider food industry, Tara is a champion of food for the entire island. So thank you, Tara, for joining us. Previously a chief exec with Bordis Kivara, and she's operated overseas markets such as Germany, France, Belgium for over 10 years, and she succeeded in delivering a number of instrumental initiatives for the food industry under the Pathways for Growth programme, working in entrepreneurship and talent development. She was previously director of the Food and Beverages division in Bord Bia, and has led a team of senior execs to the development of seafood, dairy, prepared foods, alcohol and small business sectors. So if you want to know anything in this country about food, Tara is our woman. And thank you so much, Tara, for joining us. We're also being joined by Ray Kelly, Marketing Director with SuperValu and Centra. Ray's having a small difficulty getting online for some reason at the moment, which was perfect yesterday evening. So I feel a bit sorry for Ray, but hopefully he'll join us by phone, if not live. And as I said, with Musgrave Retail Partners with Ireland, here in Ireland, Ray is a huge name in terms of the food retail side of Ireland, responsible for the strategic development and marketing of the SuperValu and Centra brands, and he's made them a huge success and is focused on bringing innovative food and beverage solutions to the marketplace. Since 2004, as marketing director for SuperValu and Centra brands, Ray has transformed and reinvented these brands into leading award-winning brands that compete nationally and internationally in a dynamic and fast-changing environment, and he has won a series of accolades during his time in the role for Marketeer of the Year, as well as developing a leading team who have twice won the Marketing Team of the Year, and I know that's something he's very proud. It's not just from Ray, he has instilled that throughout his entire team. Ray joined the Guaranteed Irish Board in 2020 and is a member of the Institute of Directors of Ireland as well. Ray, we're delighted to have you. I know you're listening to me somewhere, and don't worry, we'll get your insights one way or another covered here. Laura Murphy, founder and brewmaster of Synergy Kombucha, and of course Laura has a connection to both Bord Bia and SuperValu, and we're delighted to have Laura join us. She's a brewmaster of Synergy, Ireland's original kombucha brewery, which is so on trend, Laura. We're dying to hear about that and a little bit more on your case study as we progress through the morning. Synergy Kombucha started life in Stony Batter, Dublin back in 2012, and in 2013 Laura established their bespoke BRC A++ brewing facility in Guido, County Donegal, and now employs over 20 people. So a massive success to you, Laura. With 14 different live culture drinks in the range, Synergy is sold via major retailers nationwide, as well as through independent shops and food service outlets. And of course, never a better time for something like kombucha to be on the market in this time of a global pandemic. So delighted to have you, Laura. Thank you for giving us the time. And Brian Lee, CEO and founder of Freshly Chopped. So Brian is kind of taking the world by storm. He's a whirlwind, CEO and founder of Freshly Chopped, one of Ireland's most well-respected and exciting entrepreneurs, starting with one unit in Dublin's Baggot Street in 2012, which I remember, Brian. And now you've just grown exponentially, not just in Ireland, but over overseas. One of Ireland's most successful startups in the 21st century, in a relatively short period of time, has grown to become a household name that stands for convenient, quality and affordable produce. With a presence in Ireland, UK and Cyprus, under Brian's leadership, the brand has also diversified to include an at-home range that is stocked in Ireland's leading retail and convenience chain. In his role as CEO, Brian has overseen all elements of the brand's stellar growth. Brian, you're very welcome. So I'm not going to delay any further because I'm conscious that people want to hear the most important thing today. I'm purely going to be the MC. What I would like to highlight is 81% of consumers agree that the Guaranteed Irish brand portrays an image of trust. And we've had some research done at the end of Q1 this year through Red Sea. And we were delighted to see that 95% of consumers believe that by purchasing a brand with a Guaranteed Irish symbol on it, that they are helping the economy. And this desire to support Irish and support local has never been at a higher point. And what we'd like to see is people reaching for that. So during this month, we're saying to everybody, look out for the G, look out for the genuinely Irish symbol, and support local, support our own amazing quality food and drinks. And let's make sure we continue this trend. It's not just a pandemic initiative, it's something that we continue to foster and grow and nurture, as well as export, of course. Our own products are really important that they're bought at home, and we as consumers become ambassadors for that product. Tara, I'm going to come to you first as the queen of food, as I said. Based on your most recent research, what do you see as the key trends and opportunities facing the Irish food industry? And do you feel we as a nation are adequately prepared to face them?
Thanks, William Breed. I'm not quite sure I'll go for the status of queen yet, but notwithstanding that, let me talk very, very briefly about some research we've done exactly on that topic as to how prepared the food industry is for the risks that they're facing. So we launched our Readiness Radar just the last 2 weeks, where we had spoken to about 60, the companies who represent around 60% of our exports, over 110 different companies around Ireland. And what we wanted to find were what are the risks they were preparing for and how prepared do they feel for that. And we looked at kind of the top 10 risks that they were looking at. And you can see, you know, the reliables like COVID, like Brexit, clearly on that. You can see some of the things you can't control for, like an economic slowdown, like the changes in commodity pricing, etc. But you can also see the things you can prepare for. And I guess that's what we were really focusing on. And the most exciting piece of news out of that research was probably the fact that 82% of Irish food and drink companies are optimistic for the years ahead, and particularly for the next 3 years when they're looking to navigate all of those changes. When we asked about those big risks that they were facing, things like Brexit, clearly they had prepared for it. They'd done an awful lot of preparation and they felt prepared for it. But regardless of that preparation, they experienced increased costs in it as well. And 80–90% of companies felt that those increased costs were significant as well as that. But then there's more to come in Brexit, clearly, and they're preparing for that. And again, there's parts of it that they're very prepared for, like the rules of origin, etc. But then, you know, export certs, etc. That's more complex, and companies are feeling they need to do more work in that space. But probably really interesting, if I look at those statistics, are market diversification. And you're right, Breed, when you mentioned there, we're an export nation. Clearly, our home market is very, very important. That powers a lot of that future growth. But 9 out of 10 companies are ready for diversification. And they're not diversifying just because of Brexit, they're diversifying as they chase growth. Interestingly, other elements that they're preparing for is talent, because we're an industry that needs people. And, you know, a significant number of companies are worried about the recruitment challenges ahead. We need more people if we're going to grow. And you can see that an industry worth €13 billion, it's got form in growing. It's increased in the last decade by, say, 67%. And that for, you know, a traditional industry is a phenomenal statistic. And even with COVID, it only went down by 2%, which again, compared to any of its peers, is an extraordinary performance as well. But the final trend that I'd say that we're really looking at, and this we'd see as much of an opportunity as a challenge, would be the whole area of sustainability. When we look and talk to companies around this space, 8 out of 10 companies will tell us they view the money they spend on sustainability as an investment, not as a cost. And 95%, so more or less unanimity, will say it's going to get more important as time goes on.
Interesting findings. Thanks for that, Tara. Laura, in terms of your business as a pretty much a startup, you might give one or two lines on what the business is first to the listeners, but you might also knit into that the greatest challenges for you over the past year, particularly through the pandemic, and of course, as Tara mentioned, Brexit, two massive change factors in the food sector, and how have you managed to overcome them?
Well, so first of all, kombucha is a fermented tea. It's a healthy alternative to traditional soft drinks, and we're a manufacturer of kombucha. So we're making a kind of a fairly wide range of kombucha products at this stage. I would say that in terms of the pandemic, it certainly refocused where our potential for growth was. I mean, obviously, in terms of as Brian will no doubt speak on expanding it over the course of the pandemic.
I think we're losing you a little bit, Laura, just in terms of your bandwidth. So just sorry, we may lose you in and out, but we'll try again. You seem to be good there, just right now.
Just the migration of our growth entirely into the grocery, into the mainstream retail, and I guess really kind of understanding for the first time, or really looking at how food, in the broadest sense, obviously is essential, but how people's experience of, you know, you take away the opportunity to go out and enjoy a meal out, and then what happens when you bring that to home, and what you offer for, you know, in home, and how, and all of that, all of the things that we're looking at. I mean, in terms of, you know, dialing up the Irishness of our product, the fact that we are doing everything in Donegal, that we refocused on that in terms of making sure we're communicating that to customers, because that's, you know, hugely important to people's experience of your brand, and all of that. So Brexit for us has been, we haven't, with our own brand, exported a lot. However, we've grown our business with contract business significantly in the UK. So as Tara said, huge preparation, and it continues. Without question, it's impacted margins. It's been a challenge, but thankfully there is a lot of support available through Borbia and so on. So engaging with that has been definitely key to both the preparation and continuing to navigate that as we go on.
Well, congratulations on succeeding there, because it's difficult. Brian, I'm going to bring you in from Chopped. Brian, health well-being has really emerged as a key trend in the industry in recent years, a little bit like Laura's space in one way. You founded Freshly Chopped on that premise 10 years ago. What do you see as the next big trend, Brian, coming down the line?
Yeah, well, for me, like, I've always find it hard to speak as healthy eating has been a trend. To me, it's something that's here to stay, and it's not going to go away. Freshly Chopped was ahead of its time. If you think 10 years ago on the health and wellness journey, we were founded, all those principles of healthy fast food on the go is here to stay, and it still stands. I think it's only going to grow more and more. There's a lot more choice when it comes to healthier options. If you look across mainstream food producers, they have more focus around this area, and there's more options, and we would like to see that we were a pioneer within this industry, to give them confidence that more mainstream producers to come into this market. With COVID-19, this has only shown a bigger spotlight on people want to look after themselves, where they're seeing people, the healthy eating trend is only more amplified as we start to turn more to normal life. If you think about it, especially younger people, they're more educated, they're more into their health, their fitness, their well-being than they've ever been before, and this is only going to keep amplifying with the next generations. When I was coming along, it was only starting to touch on the fringes of it. I seen it more abroad than here, and I thought it was a matter of time before the Irish consumer would want to be getting more connected with their health and well-being and what they put into their bodies. So I think this trend is only really getting going now, and COVID-19 has really shone a spotlight on people wanting to look after themselves even more than ever now.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, Brian, and I can see the trend. But apart from that, is there within that health sector, are there new that healthy food eating? Are there new trends going down the line as well?
Well, you're talking more specific than ingredients and products and stuff like that. If you look back a couple of years ago, Mexican was the team, the Brazilian was the team. Like poke bowls emerged on, and I think these kind of things are going to come on more mainstream. The poke bowls more. What I'm noticing a lot more demand from the shop consumer is more fish within our products, and that's something that we're going to start reintroducing. Is more salmon products. We tied up with Shine's Tuna for a promo last year, and I think we ran out of product. It was so successful. So years ago, 10 years ago, turkey was the product that everybody would want to have for the health and fitness. It was the leanest type of protein and meat. Now we're finding that it's gone more educated within the health and fitness industry, and people want to tap in to the protein source of fish, whether it be tuna, salmon, all these different options that are there. So this is something that we want to now start implementing back into our menu ASAP.
Okay, that's interesting. Laura, I'm going to come back to you because I know the Food Academy was very instrumental in your startup phase. And while we're waiting to try and get Ray, and again, apologies on that to those listening, we will get him. Tell us a little bit about the role the Food Academy in SuperValu played in getting to where you are today.
I really can't emphasize how important SuperValu, going into SuperValu and the whole Food Academy process was. I mean, absolutely central to the growth of our business, and actually put us in a place where some years through the program now, but our relationship with SuperValu has been so integral to how well we've fared in the past year with the pandemic. I mean, that just really has been huge. But for us, at the stage that we joined the Food Academy, and people do come to it at different stages. Some people are much earlier in their product development, or they haven't really landed on what kind of pack format, or it's still early. We were at the point of going into Food Academy already in independents, in health food shops, but we hadn't yet worked with any mainstream major retailer like SuperValu at all. We hadn't taken that step. And as Brian was saying, it's here to stay. We've been going a little while now, but in those early days when I started the business, people were saying, what is kombucha? And now people are actively searching for kombucha. So it's, we've been there through that shift. With Food Academy, the location in the store for us was just incredible, because you have a new product, something that's innovative, new to many people, and to be in that incredibly well, I mean, like the prime real estate in the shop where people are going to see those products, and you're on a billboard essentially. That opportunity was just incredible. I think the other thing about Food Academy is that it's the growth through SuperValu and in terms of adding shops and going on to kind of widen your business maybe throughout the whole of Musgrave's business. It's all done in a very sustained way, and as you move through the program, there's a lot kind of helping guide and making sure people are prepared on the financial end with kind of capacity, that people are forecasting properly and really taking you on that journey, as opposed to 0 to 60 and suddenly, oh my goodness, I have to go, go into all of these stores. Like it's done in a really kind of well-paced way. I think that really is great for a growing producer. It kind of allows you to so we're now, I mean, as I said, we've been a number of years in SuperValu. The growth has been phenomenal. We're now, I mean, we're fully nationwide. We're really across the whole thing, and we're into centres and through Musgrave Food Service as well. So it's been a wonderful relationship, and it's really worked. And can't say anything else.
It's great to see the small steps, Laura, that they bring you through so that you can actually scale and cope with the scaling, because I think a lot of people may fall down that way. And of course, Tara, you'd give us a better insight into that. But consumer behaviours, Tara, have changed a lot in recent years, from the digital transformation to exploring new dietary lifestyles. But changes, of course, brings opportunities. Where do you see the main opportunities for the Irish food producers we have at the moment?
I think if I can just endorse everything that Laura and Brian have said with regard to health, I think if you're looking at this globally, what the pandemic has said is, health is now a national interest. So you're having governments playing a bigger role, you're having consumers playing a bigger role. So you're going to see obviously opportunities for products that can speak to their healthfulness, I guess. And from that perspective, you're going to have demands for boosting immunity. And I know Laura was talking about that vitamin D product that they're after developing as well. So people are more aware. Brian was talking there about, natural as well, people going back to really wanting good, maybe having a little bit less of it, but having really good food. And I think a fantastic example there is Shine's tuna. I'm a huge fan of it myself as well. It's a really brilliant product. And if I can kind of build on another trend that kind of links to that, you're also really seeing the growth of the conscientious and the mindful consumer, because we're hearing a lot in political front of this build back better. And I think consumers are also thinking like that with regard to their own diets, that they're really conscious on what they're consuming and how it has been produced. And they're looking and trying to understand the impact that their food choices have on the planet. And they're, I guess, asking for more transparency from the food industry as a result of that, because they don't know, they're trying to make better decisions. So they're looking for transparency. They're looking for to help us, for us to help them understand the process, not just the promises that we're making, and to give more and more detail behind that. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity for our industry, because if you look at programs that like Origin Green, where Ireland has been speaking to this topic and sustainability, we've a lot to say on these topics, and we've got a lot of really natural credentials that consumers are absolutely searching for. Another big trend we're seeing is the whole area of food waste, where consumers really want help on managing food waste. And, there's innovation opportunities on how you can give consumers ideas on how best to use your product a second time, or how to make sure there's as limited waste, or to make sure that it's a product that can be used for lunch or dinner, or to give as many ideas to them as possible as well. You're also seeing, if I look at trends with regard to the whole idea of reframing indulgence, I think we're all eating differently at the moment. We're stuck at home an awful lot more. The opportunity of eating out is coming back to us, and Borbia is going to be launching our new white paper on food service on Thursday as well, to just give an insight into that reopening and the challenges of food service. But if I look at the current status of the reframing indulgence at home, I think we're looking for different treats, little treats, accessible treats, and the occasions that we're eating on. I think there's a fight to get a horse box anywhere around the country now, because you're normally drinking coffee from it rather than seeing horses in it. So it's a case of how do we make sure that we've access to indulgence, etc. And obviously, Breed, you mentioned there digitization, the whole online revolution that we've just experienced. All of these trends were kind of happening anyway before COVID, but they've just been fast-tracked and boosted. And I guess when we're talking to any of our food companies, then it's how do you turn up online? How do you present yourself? How do you make it accessible for consumers? How do you partner with the right people to make sure that those companies who've invested really well online, that your product can be found there? And I guess then how's your packaging, your photography, etc., accessible, and working as hard as it can, working as well. So much of the work and concentration we've had traditionally has been to turn up well in store, or to turn up well in food service. How do you turn up well online now, and what are the messages that you can communicate online, and what's the support that you need to do that? So again, the team here in Borbia have been doing a lot of work on Think Digital to help companies navigate this, because this is effectively another new skill. So we've had a lot of new skills introduced to the food industry thanks to COVID, thanks to Brexit, thanks to all of these changes. But I guess what I'd say, if I go back to those opening comments I made, the resilience and the ambition of our industry, I think, knows no bounds really, and it's a case of ensuring that the right supports are there at the right time, and that they too are accessible, which is fundamental to how we organise ourselves here in Borbia.
That's brilliant, Tara, and I agree with all of those trends, and we can see them as consumers ourselves. And definitely there's a desire to buy Irish, and we see that in our own stats coming through Guaranteed Irish, but we also see the desire to buy Irish, put more focus on value than price, put more focus on quality, and put more focus on health. So it's really nice to have this team who are discussing it here. Laura, in terms of a case study for this morning, and bearing in mind those trends and the challenges with, as Tara said, turning up online, it's such a different experience. How have you managed to scale up successfully, considering you're not able to go to the marketplace and wheel and deal and do your business in new countries?
Yeah, so, well, I would certainly say with regard to online, it's something that we had been, I guess, if you like, our strategy had been very, very much focused on, getting into store, doing tastings in store, and that was a lot through SuperValu and Food Academy. There was a big emphasis there, and kind of word of mouth, and that kind of very grassroots, encouraging people to try something that we had, which was essentially new to a lot of people, getting out to consumer shows, all that kind of thing. So suddenly that's gone, and we definitely kind of, I mean, for us, it was a bit of an acceleration to really kind of catch up online. We made a new website. We did a lot of new photography. We really dialed up where we are. The fact that we really are in a place of extraordinary natural beauty in Gweedore and Donegal. I mean, you look out from the office window and you're looking at Errigal. Like, I mean, it's beautiful where we are. It really is. And I think that, while people may have a little bit understood that we were an Irish brand, we started to see how important it was to really communicate that. So the other thing we did in terms of online was we launched for the first time a direct-to-consumer online shop as well, because I had family members sending me, at certain points in the pandemic, sending me, carefully taken photographs of trolleys or baskets in a SuperValu with people with 12 and 20 bottles of kombucha in there. And we said, wow, okay, so people are looking to buy this and have it at home. So yeah, there's an opportunity to sell by the case and for a certain kind of person. The other thing that we did with SuperValu was to launch a 750ml bottle, because we said, okay, the 250ml can or the 330ml bottle is maybe, it has its place still at home, but actually, we shifted the pack format to offer a larger bottle for at home, and that's worked in SuperValu too. But sorry, that's going on a tangent away from the digital. But yeah, so more photography, more interaction. Of course, you're meeting customers only online, so social media, all the obvious things just became everything in the last year, because you didn't have the opportunity to engage with people in any other way. So that's been huge. And echoing again the sustainability piece, that's been the conversation that we're having with customers. That's where it's at. Organic, sustainable packaging, all of that. That's what people are engaging about more than anything.
Okay, thanks for that, Laura. I think I might have some good news, and we have Ray Kelly of SuperValu joining us. Ray, can you hear me there?
Yes, I can hear you. I do indeed. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Ray. It sounds like you're talking to me from Mount Everest there, but we'll take it. We'll take it. We're talking about trends here, and delighted you have managed to get through to us. In terms of the trends and changes SuperValu are seeing with the consumers, give us a little bit of, shed a little bit of light on that for us in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I will. First of all, apologies. I'm actually calling from Cork, would you believe? So I'm not that far away really, but I know it sounds that way. So yeah, COVID has been funny. So a lot of food trends come through. People are, buying stuff they've never bought before, and some of that will reverse. But where we're more interested in is what changes do we believe will stay? And there's probably three big changes, I think. The first is probably a lot of people have become more confident with food because they had to. So people were spending more time preparing food, buying good ingredients and cooking food because they had time to do it. And suddenly, I think they got a higher appreciation. There's no what to all of that, is that quality products, quality ingredients become more important. And also, I think that that kind of value for money relationship has changed. Because at one time, people might have seen certain quality ingredients as expensive. Now, I believe they've moved to seeing quality ingredients as, actually, you know what, worth paying for. That's a big step, particularly in terms of some of the smaller kind of niche more products. The second big trend I think that will stay is that people do want to support local. There's always a bit of a say-do gap here, but on this one, we're seeing the evidence of the do. Our research will say that about 80% of people said they'll continue to buy local and Irish and make an effort. Why? Well, probably selfishly, first of all, because they've learned the food actually is better. It just tastes better. Why? Because it's got the local element, sustainability, the provenance, all the good stuff that goes with local food. So they've learned that. It's seen as healthier, and I think that will stay. And then the secondary point behind that is that feel-good factor of knowing that it helps with jobs and local community. So again, what's the so what to that point is there's a lot of goodwill out there for the right products and the right producers. And the third probably one, this is picking up from something that Tara said earlier about sustainability. Post-COVID, as we're coming out of COVID, the importance is back. It's right back to our consumers. It'll impact how and where shoppers choose to shop. So this is a biggie for us. Again, a lot of research we do on this with our shoppers. Top three concerns: plastic, a desire to buy local and Irish, and then minimizing waste. They're the top three on it. Again, what's the so what here? Ultimately, they want brands and businesses to make it easier for them to do the right thing. So sometimes doing the right thing is hard, and they want us to do it. So they're looking for brands and business to lead the way, to lead the change. And actually, I'd say they don't want. They actually demand it. They're demanding that brands and businesses lead the way. So if you don't, at your own peril.
That's absolutely brilliant, Ray. Thanks for that insight. I'm going to ask you another question, if you don't mind, Ray, because I want to catch up with you in terms of the biggest challenges then and opportunities that you see from the food producer's perspective, and what advice can you give them to stand out in getting noticed?
Yeah, I'll start with the positive first of all. Just remember what I said there. People want to buy Irish. So the goodwill is there. Your job, and obviously with our help as well, is helping people to do that. So help people to buy what they want, which is buy Irish. So dial up your Irish credentials, dial up your local credentials in particular on it. But I'd say the same with sustainability. You have an opportunity to help people understand how your product makes it easy for them to do the right thing. So again, that can be on either the product you produced, on your label, particularly on your social media. That's the kind of the go-to place for it. So there's a lot of positives there, and I just think those two is where I'd advise companies to focus in on. The second one probably is a challenge, and it's probably a generic challenge, but it's still, especially in times of growth, is just be very clear on your USP, your unique selling point. It's hard to do sustained growth with a Me Too product. So know why you're different and why people will buy. And link to that.
I think we lost him.
And have we just lost him there?
I think so.
I'm so glad I got that second question in. I threw off my running order, but I think that's important that we get as much out of Ray as we can there. We'll try and get Ray back, of course. But Tara, Ray, are you there?
So the point I was making there is that we've seen lots of growth in good Irish brands and businesses. And my watch out always here is make sure you plan that growth properly, because too much growth too quickly, cash flow problems and all that goes with it for a young business. So I wouldn't say temper your growth, but think carefully about how you want to grow and the impact cash might have on that. And the final point I probably want to make there, again, it's a positive one, is I look at Food Academy and we've seen all the great brands that have gone through there. And, for people who don't know, Food Academy, brilliant program developed with Super Value, Board B and the local enterprises officers. It's been on for about 8 years now, Breed. About 690 producers have gone through it, generated sales of over 170 million. So we've a good history here of knowing what works on it. My point is that right now, about 93% of Food Academy participants, they expect to grow their revenue this year. That's phenomenal. And 70% expect to expand their workforce. So a lot of confidence is the summary. There's a lot of goodwill from customers. Watch the business side of it. Just make sure you have the cash and so on to make sure that you can manage that level of growth.
Thanks, Ray. I'm going to hold you on that because I want to bring Brian in on that. It's a very young business growing very fast. You started Chopped in the middle of a severe recession and made a success of that. What's the advice you would give to others thinking of launching or diversifying their offers in the coming years when we're still in the middle of uncertainty?
Sorry, Breda, I missed.
I'm just saying, I'm asking you, Brian, there, what is your advice considering you've come through a recession with Chopped and made a success of that? And as we are still in an era of uncertainty, how are you, what's the advice you give to startups?
Well, as you said there, we started in the thick of the recession. I've always had a mentality, and that my approach on things might be different to others, but my advice is when the chips are down, that's the time to take the chance. Right now, I believe it's the time to follow your dream, that dream you've always had, take the risk. I've always had a backup plan myself, so if you can have your backup plan ready, have that, because it might not work out the first time you go at it, but there's nothing to say that it never will. At the time when I started Freshly Chopped, commercial rents were very favourable compared to they are now, and that's not the case. But what I've noticed is during the pandemic, it's given people time to really look for that inner entrepreneurial spirit, whether it be looking around at the many containers, horse boxes, food trucks that have been set up. This could be people that have had their backs to the wall, sorry, had their backs to the wall, and they've had no other choice but to think inside and how to come up with a business opportunity. We as Irish people should be encouraged that we don't just need to be employees. We have the opportunity to create our own path and be employers. So do your research, find your niche. Look, I always like to focus on building a brand first. It might not be other people's approach, and the product second. I always find that helps me determine the direction and the culture I want to take the business going forward. I've just created another second brand called Neat Pizza, and I just worked on the whole branding aspect of this before we start delving into menu creation and product. We had some work done, but we finished off the brand. We focused on what our USPs are going to be, what's going to make us stand out from a noisy crowd, and we've teamed up with the likes of the Feed Your Homeless. Customers can donate their loyalty pizzas to the homeless with double donations. We've loads more initiatives that have worked in, focused on that as a cashless business. So that's something that I'm excited on. We're now in pre-launch mode, but I've always recognised and acknowledged areas that might be not your expertise, and people should recognise what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and surround themselves with people that are stronger and more better equipped than they are, whether it be, if you take an example, we're not accountants, we're not solicitors, we all hire these people. So if you're not a food developer or you're not an expert in coffee, it doesn't mean you can't go into these sectors. I don't just look at myself as a food entrepreneur, I look at myself as an entrepreneur that build brands. I focus on leading teams and strategizing on to break the mold. So look at it, lean into the Irish network. There's so many great Irish networks out there that you can lean into opportunities. Like we have great partnerships with Laura's business, Rebel Chili. We're just super supportive there. You don't always need to hire these expertise to get the experience and the knowledge from them. So now is the time I would take, go follow the dream and do your research, find your niche, and go for it.
Thanks, Brian, for that. Tara, I'm going to come to you. As an exporting nation, we need some help. We're a very small player, and the global marketplace is hugely competitive in comparison to what we can offer. How does Board BIA work with the industry to ensure that Ireland's agri-food sector gets noticed by key customers, particularly now, and buyers overseas as well? What top tip would you give to any company looking to expand, particularly for their first time, Tara?
I'd actually build a lot on what Brian has just said, because the route to success at home is very similar to the route of success overseas as well. Fundamentally, know where you want to play and know how you're going to win. And that insight approach effectively that Brian has articulated on, understand the need that you're looking to satisfy, understand it better than anybody else, and understand how you're going to beat everybody. So when you can then articulate, well, then that's harder to do in an overseas market. That's why market understanding is so important. The research before you step anywhere. We have a Board BIA thinking house that's literally equipped. We specialize in food understanding, in market research. So we would really like to equip as many of our industry as possible with that market understanding element. The second element that we find, and again, Brian has called this out, the networks. How do you build your networks? And it's the exact same if you're trying to create your network here at home versus creating that network overseas. And again, Brian has called out his experience in this space. So how do we build and help you create that network? So we have an overseas office network of 15 offices throughout the world. We've looked at where the priority markets are. We've researched to look at what Irish products resonate best in which markets around the world. Where are the growth opportunities within that, and then helping companies translate all of that into market strategies, because you need a plan, and that plan is, where am I going to play and how am I going to win in that market? And you need to keep revisiting, challenging, and allowing your network to support you in revisiting and challenging that as well. A lot of the routes we'd have traditionally gone to build those networks, like let's go to the trade shows, etc., have been stymied because of COVID and the fact that so much has been cancelled. And that's why that think digital approach of understanding how we do that in a digital fora has been an area of concentration for Board BIA. So we've been running virtual trade missions, we've been running virtual trade shows. We've had a recent accelerator event here in Ireland where we've hosted over 120 buyers from our priority markets for our prepared consumer food industry to organise meetings with them virtually, because we can't meet them physically. So it's not the COVID or global pandemic is not a reason to not keep going. And exactly as Brian has said there, diversity in so many ways is our motivation, is a reason to keep going at this. So what we have found, and the resilience of our industry has proven this, when we looked at our reputation scorings among all of our different buyers, they're fascinated by the resilience of Ireland. The fact that COVID, Brexit, you name it, has not slowed down the ambition of this industry whatsoever. And they have, when other countries have stopped food production or have had serious issues with their food production, the Irish food industry has come in and saved many production sites or saved many retailers in there having product on shelf, whether that's our meat industry, our dairy industry, etc. So we have a reputation as being a powerhouse, a reputation of being the breadbasket almost for particularly the UK, but growing from a European perspective as well. So it's a case of looking at our assets as well. Ray commented there on understanding what the market is saying, and he called out clearly the idea of people wanting to support what Ireland is. Internationally, that's more challenging, obviously, because that buy local can play against us when we're looking at trying to get into new markets. But fundamentally, what we're looking at is, what is our brand? When we're talking about food brand Ireland or drink brand Ireland, what does that actually mean to consumers internationally? And I'll bring that back to the basics of that natural image that Ireland has. When we look at the clean air, the clean soil, the clean sea, that commitment to food production, that's our brand. And that's what we bring around the world. And we build then from that, we ladder up on our food safety, on our quality credentials, on our sustainability credentials. But everything starts at those foundations of our commitment to a natural product. And again, Laura is, I guess, testament to that commitment to natural, to organic, and all of the trends that we can then build back. But everything she ladders back to will be to that entrepreneurial instinct, founded and product made up in Donegal, where she can reference back continuously to that clean air soil sea that will be part of what she brings in her magic overseas as well. So I guess what we're looking to do is help companies translate all of that, but doing it, as Ray said again, step by step, not going fool's rush where angels fear to tread. It's a case of pacing yourself, understanding, building the networks, and doing things in the right way, so that you're here for a long time and a sustainable time as well.
Thanks, Tara. That's brilliant. In terms of the nuggets that people are getting, please feel free to put the questions on the Q&A for me so I can get to the panelists on your behalf before the end of the session, which we're coming to now. Just 2 more questions. And I'm going to preface it by saying I'm delighted to see the trend towards the buying Irish, buying local. And I see how that will play against us when we go to scale abroad. But 82% of consumers agree that Guaranteed Irish brand stands out from others in its genuine support of Irish jobs, communities and the circular economy. And I do have to say that, and of course I'm going to say that in my capacity, but in terms of other brands that are out there, lots of imposters, let's try and make what we're really saying the Irish, let it be the quality, let it be the mark that people identify with, and obviously really try to get that on your labelling. Ray, if I can come to you, you're saying that the shoppers really want to buy Irish. Can you tell us why that is the case? We kind of know as a result of COVID, but maybe expand on that a little bit more as to why you think the trend is going to last time.
Okay, you still hear me there, Bridget?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Good. Yeah, it's a big fact. So like, it's a big advantage for all our businesses, the fact that people actually want to do it and the goodwill is there. Why? My summary from the last point was they like the food. It just tastes better. It's local. It's fresher. It's sustainable. It's good stuff. So that's the first thing. And the second motivating factor, which is an important one, is they believe they're doing something positive. So it creates jobs. It creates helps the local community. And that's where I see the massive opportunity, because not all shoppers actually don't yet understand the benefit that they can give to the local community, to the country overall, by simply shopping local and Irish. And that's the message we keep hammering out, but it's a kind of a tougher one to get. So, for example, fact, for every €1 spent on local and Irish goods, about €5 goes back into the local economy. It's called the multiplier effect. It's because when money is spent locally, it stays locally, it's invested locally, it's spent with local tradespeople, producers, and so on. So it multiplies in the local area. So it's true for most economies across the world. It's not just an Irish thing, it's true for most economies. But about half the people, 48% of people, when we ask them, simply believe it's €1 for €1. So you spend the euro stays in the economy. It's actually 5 times more. So when this message eventually cuts through and people get it, I think it'll change behavior, because it's now another reason, on top of all the stuff they talked about before, about it's an easy way for them to really contribute to their own local economy, their own local community, and ultimately Ireland. So that's good news for all of us. It's good news for all producers.
That's brilliant, actually, Ray, to make that point. It's something we're always hammering home. And I suppose the quality and the origin green and the provenance coming through with Tara's campaigns as well. Really strong to see that coming through. And what we're saying to everybody out there, I suppose this month in June, the food month with Guaranteed Irish, is as we do our weekly shops, we're calling on all consumers out there. So if you're listening this morning, all consumers to really consider putting one other Guaranteed Irish product into your basket. It makes a huge difference to your own community and to our recovery. Laura, last question to you, in relation to your business up in Gweedore. What advice have you for other small businesses who are listening here this morning to grow sustainably?
Certainly, you know, what I was speaking a little bit about before, you know, going through a program like SuperValue and the Food Academy, where you're through the pace of the growth that you'll find through a program like that, it's ensuring that you have adequate cash flow projections, that your capacity is always kind of well paced, and you're very well equipped to kind of grow ahead of you. Certainly I think that's the key, that you're kind of planning and really ready for each step. So, we would have continually over the years always known exactly at what point do we, what's the magic number where we press go on a purchase for whatever it might be, for a line extension or whatever it is, so that you really are always just seeing far enough ahead of you for well, if it goes well, this is what we're going to need. And just having the finance that you might need to access lined up. I mean, just throughout everything that you're doing, whether that's all your raw materials, packaging, everything, you just always need to be sort of ready for the next step in terms of a growth ahead. It's just, I guess it's really simple planning. That for me wouldn't have been my strength. For me, it's designing the products and coming up with all of that kind of end of things, and the brand and so on. But certainly having the right people in your team who can bring those aspects. But something like the Food Academy helped me to really kind of improve my understanding on all of that, so that I could be a more useful part of my team on those things. For us, in terms of sustainable growth with export, it worked out that with the particular product that we have and with the expertise, we sort of decided very early on, there was very few people, nobody really in the UK, very few across the whole of Europe, being very, very technical and highly certified in terms of kombucha manufacturing. There was a lot of very kind of cottage industry style. So we went straight away for BRC cert. We kind of went leaped ahead in that regard. So for us, it kind of worked out with the export piece that it made more sense to pursue private label contract business in terms of export. That just happened to be particular, I think, to our product, and that may change. May change. We may explore. I mean, we are always looking, but that local story and the story about our brewery and so on, that's so strong for us at home. It's something that we'll continue to lean into. But
okay, thank you for that, Laura, and indeed all the panelists. I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to shoot through them from listeners here. A question for Ray: have you seen a shift to organic organic in shoppers, and are they prepared to pay more for organic produce, Ray?
Yeah, it's this isn't just a COVID thing. This has been happening steadily, I'd say, over the last number of years in particular. And you'll see, I speak from our own supermarkets in there, that as a result, the space that we spend or we give it has increased. And organic sustainability kind of go hand in hand as well. And people do want good organic product with less plastic. I think all our range in there now is compostable as well. On it, so we do have to put packaging, so it's linked. The two of them are linked, but yeah, it's a growth area, and again, it's one of those things that people feel that the product just tastes better, and they're prepared to pay for better product.
Right, so they are prepared to pay. And another question for you as well, Ray, while I have you: of the 690 products that you've put through the Food Academy, are they still on your shelves?
I think most are. What we do is, part of our program is we will feature them in our key area, kind of the Food Academy area in the store, so you can now kind of taste the local. You got to remember that how many of these will want to be a national brand versus a good regional brand. So I'll give you one example, and this is why you're not going to find 690 in any one individual store. Is take the area here of Cork or wider Munster. We've had many fantastic brands who've gone through a number of stores, then got bigger, and then decided, that's what we want to do. That and other farmer markets. We don't really want to go any bigger or national for good reasons. One, in terms of the ambition of the owner, or that, there's a good return and they don't want to have to expand, and the risk of expansion as well. So those products can be available locally in Cork or in the likes of Dublin and so on. Like any business, you'll have certain brands will work, over time certain brands won't work, but vast majority of them go on to be quite successful, whether it's large or small. A lot will depend on the product and the owner. But sales of 178 million, that's a decent figure overall, which would indicate that the vast majority of them have had a quite a successful time.
Okay, and a question to all the panel. Maybe Tara, you might come back to me first on this. Does the panel believe that consumers are more informed about the source of their food preferences, its packaging, and how the brand is rated or operates within the sustainability space? And from an Ireland perspective, how is the Irish food industry prepared today for the future?
I think the consumer's on a journey, Breed. They are trying to learn. There's a lot of new vocabulary that they're trying to understand. There's a lot of new metrics. Like if we look at the last decade, probably food miles was the word that was in vogue. Now we're talking an awful lot about emissions. We're talking about the pathway to net zero. You're talking about zero food waste, etc. So there's a lot of new vocabulary that different consumers are probably ahead of, and other consumers may not be that ahead, be not informed at all about, I guess. So it's very, very mixed. When we're looking at it from an Irish food perspective, we're in a very, very unique position because 9 years ago, almost a decade ago, we established a program called Origin Green, and it's at a B2B level, business to business level. And what that program was looking to do was to help our industry prepare for this trend and to understand and invest in the sustainability credentials that it needed to have. So we've been guiding from on-farm level through to company level for almost a decade now, and helping companies to manage and to track their raw material sourcing, looking at their community engagement, looking at their own energy usage, water usage, etc. So I would say that when you look at 90% of our exports are now members of verified members of Origin Green. There are quite a number more that still have to come in, but I would say that we're in a very unique position from a perspective of preparedness and data sets. And I guess one of the biggest trends we're seeing here, Breed, is that this is happening at a two-tier level. Number one, you're seeing that businesses like SuperValu are asking more questions because their consumers are asking them questions. So they need to find out, particularly for their own private label products, they need to have the data sets available so that consumers can interrogate it if they choose to. So not having the information isn't an option. And I think Ray called that out at the beginning. People will choose to shop where they get the right answers to these particular questions. But just as importantly then for consumers, and this is probably even more relevant for brand owners, consumers want to unpack as much as possible clarity about what's happening. Is this product recyclable? Is it compostable? What am I supposed to do with it? Where is it sourced from? Is it local? And all of these things matter for them. And I guess from a Bord Bia perspective, we have created a unique infrastructure to allow our industry to shine in this space. We had the natural credentials in Ireland anyway. Go back to that point of the clean air, clean soil, clean seas. Look at our production methodology. It's family farms, it's extensive production for our meat and dairy, it's grass-based production. Consumers around the world want to know about that, but they want to know what it means. So what we've been doing is that our Origin Green program is independently verified, independently accredited to ensure that I guess, challenge of greenwashing can be robustly defended. We have systems that every member of Origin Green that we have will be independently verified by Mabit, an external provider, to make sure that everything that's said is robustly challenged right the way through the system. So we're, I would suggest, very well prepared for it. We know, and our industry knows, as I said earlier, 95% of our Irish industry expect this to be even bigger, but they're investing in it. And I guess that's where the proof is in the pudding there.
Okay, and and I endorse all that as well. And I suppose appraisals and systems and checks and balances are really important to avoid the greenwashing, which is really important. That is going on in some places out there. A question, and I think I'll put this to Brian and Ray. What advice would you give a food service brand trying to recruit and grow their team in the current climate? Brian, maybe.
Yes, well, I think we would all agree, anyone in food service at the moment, this is probably the biggest challenge that faces us all at the moment, whether it be the pup payments, confidence in the sector returning, is there going to be another lockdown, what the future holds. I think every food operator I know is having difficulty in recruitment. What can we do? We have to, I think there's a good example of any of food brands or any businesses that in hospitality that have come through the pandemic is showing a good resilience for the future. So that's giving confidence on its own for people to come on as an employee, that we're here to stay, we're here as brands, businesses, and we're stronger than ever and re-energized for what's to come. So there's a lot of other initiatives that we can play on. It's not always down to pay and salary and bonus structures. It's more down to the company culture, and I think company culture is really what's going to attract good, talented employees, and that's something that we're on a journey ourselves on at the moment, especially.
Okay, and Ray, how are you finding that, the whole recruitment for the food service section?
Yeah, it's well, for food service and food retail, it's the same problem. It's very, very difficult right now, and probably building up some of the points there. It's a combination. So how do you get good people at the moment? It is a combination of, I'd say, brand, culture, and security is the third area. So brand, people actually buy into where they work, so they enjoy it. It's the culture, in terms of, an exciting place to work, people good. That type of stuff really, really important. And then particularly going into food service, that safety part, and that's the element where people don't want to join up, and then the fear of, what happens if it doesn't work out, So it's that safety element, or that kind of reassurance of they're joining a strong business or a potentially strong business with good opportunities. That's a weirder feeling at the moment.
Okay,
I
might add a little bit to that. One thing that we've implemented over the last 2 years is a career path for existing employees, and showing them and painting it out. You come in at bottom level as a choppy, and you've the chopper, and you can literally promote. There's incentives to grow with the company. And this is something that we have seen a great retention on holding the employees that we have at the moment. Yes, they're proud to work for the company, to work under the brand. The culture is right. They feel security, as Ray mentioned there. But ultimately, they need to see where can they go within this company. Where's the next step for them? And explaining and sitting the employees down in small groups, relaying that message to them is really a vital thing to do.
And Tara?
Yeah, if I can just build on those points as well, on that confidence piece. When we opened this session, I was saying that 82% of the food industry in general is confident of their performance in the next 3 years. Look at the kind of, whilst past performance, as the banks would say, is no indicator, but the growth that this industry has achieved already of 67% in the last decade, I guess, is a signal this is a robust resilience industry. When we look at the talent programs, and we saw in our risk register that talent is an issue for our food industry that our industry is looking at quite significantly. But I think when you look at where the food industry is positioned in the psyche of Ireland, where it's our #1 Indigenous industry, we ran some programs there to recruit recently for graduates to come in to give them work experience from fellowship, for placements overseas, etc. We had over 4,000 applications for 80 positions. So our food industry is an attractive industry. It's a high growth, so it will need a lot of new bodies coming into it as well. But it's also a values-based industry. And what I mean by that is we're feeding the world. We're feeding that world sustainably, and we're also doing it innovatively. We're also doing it in a really exciting way. And this industry is an essential service. So when you pack up all of those assets that our industry has, I think it's on all responsibility of all of us to ensure that we are attracting the right people. And Brian there mentioning about that roadmap for careers. We've done a lot of work in Borbia on the whole idea of diversity in our food industry as well, so that whether it's for women, whether it's for culture, that we have a program set up, AgDiff, in partnership with Aon and the 30% Club, to make sure that people feel welcome in the food industry, that they see that career path, and that they know how best to build their own confidence to succeed here as well. So I'd argue we have challenges ahead, but we're also an asset to the country from the perspective of what we can give back as well.
The final question I'm going to put to the panel, and thank you, Tara, for that. Could the food producers, so really Laura and Brian, describe any collaboration they did with external companies or other agencies and third level institutes on new product development, and any tips for startups or scaling food companies? Laura, very briefly, because we've gone over our time.
Okay, so when I was establishing my business, I was the first kombucha in Ireland. So I came in through well, that's when I met Tara first. I came through the FoodWorks program. So that was incredible, and the level of information and the coaching and just every aspect in that program, incredible. But Chag is part of that program, so we were able to look at the technical piece in that regard. And as I said, it was sort of a decision early on to get to be very technical and to really excel in terms of the technical aspect of something which is a very ancient process, a very traditional food process, but making sure that we had an approach which was very, very scalable, and we could deliver on that consistency and quality as we scaled while having the authenticity to the product. So that was what we did, and that involved, Chagas for a start. I know that there are many kind of interactions with third level institutions and sort of particular supports and innovation voucher, I think it's maybe called. But just if you're looking, if you're kind of in a startup place and the supports are there, I would say certainly, definitely for us, it has been so integral to who we are as a company, being strong on that technical piece, and it's allowed us to grow and scale, engage like with major retailers like SuperValu with ease, and again on the private label business, all those questions we have the answers. So definitely getting that piece right early on is really great. I don't know if that answers the question properly.
Brian, I'm going to jump to you. Collaborations with other agencies and third level institutions that helped you scale?
I would be honest that we've had none. Instead of me beating around the bush, we haven't had any collaborations. It's been all self-learned, self-taught. We have been collaborating with other brands to build our home range within like we have the likes of Rebel Chili I mentioned earlier. We use them within store, and we've collaborated to create a product that's now on the Aldi to grow program right now. And as well with Nature's Best up in Drogheda, we've collaborated to bring our home range that is now I think it's in SuperValu and Dunn's and Tesco.
Well, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm conscious that we've gone 10 minutes over, the first time ever. And the reason for that is with such a high registration of attendees and such an amazing panel. So thank you so much. And what I would like to finish off on and saying, look, 88% of people who are using the Guaranteed Irish symbol said it has helped them drive sales. If you aren't using it, it's a very simple process, but there is an appraisals involved, a bit like what Tara mentioned. It's checks and balances that the company who's producing the food or the drink has to support jobs, communities and provenance. We're very committed to that through Guaranteed Irish. It's a new Guaranteed Irish programme that's out there, and we are very much collaborating with everybody and delighted to have everyone collaborate with us this morning. So please do consider getting involved and making it easy for the consumer, as Ray said, to pick your product up as opposed to the other one and put it in their basket and make that sale. So we can't support you unless you support yourself. So let's all try and work and collaborate together. I would certainly like to thank this morning all the people who joined us, and I know it has been technically challenging this morning, but we got the best out of it. So thank you so much for the resilience shown by Tara Mccarthy, CEO of Board Bia, Ray Kelly, Marketing Director of SuperValu and Centra, Brian Lee, Founder and CEO of Freshly Chopped, Laura Murphy, Founder and Brewmaster of Synergy Kombucha, and all the team in Guaranteed Irish who've been pedaling furiously to keep this going. So thank you so much. What I would say to you in the future is we have our next event each month, as you know, in Guaranteed Irish, we celebrate a theme of our main industry sectors, and next month is all about tourism. Tourism is just opening up, very dependent on the food and drink sector coming out of Ireland. We're delighted to encourage those in the tourism sector to feature on their menus their Irish provenance. So if it's a local kombucha, local chopped salad, or whatever the product is, let's use it and put it on our menu. Really, and we've loads of new research, and we'll publish it next month as well. The consumer is so thrilled to buy local, even in the dining out experience when they're being served. So I think that's something we almost take confidence from, as Tara mentioned earlier. We have a lot of findings from today. I'll be here all day going through them with you. So I am going to circulate that via email to all our registered attendees and participants. And also there's a copy of this available across all our platforms. Please do connect with Guaranteed Irish. We're here to help. We're a not-for-profit, and our job is to continue to support those jobs and those businesses on the ground out there. And you've been wonderful for listening, and thank you for your patience, and thank you so much for our panelists. And I'll bid you a very good morning on that.